Now we are at the last Q&A session of the SwasthyaCon, and I request Dr. Tanish Modi sir and Dr. Hina ma'am to take forward the question answer session. We have a few questions in the question answer box, so you can refer them.
There are many coming also, and we would like our faculties to put on their cameras. And yes, we have all faculties present over here: Dr. Niall Thomas, Dr. Madhav Desai, Dr. Shri, Dr. Damodaran, and we have even the chairpersons around. So it is indeed pleasure. Even Dr. Vijay sir. Yes, thank you everyone. Please. We have questions popping up, and yes, in COVID condition we have infection where everyone is asking how to reduce the post-COVID complications in diabetes. So, and we have all esteemed faculties around. Please, sir.
Yeah, I think we have already discussed yesterday partly, but for those who have not attended, let me add a message that COVID patients who are diabetes under control are at no greater risk than those who have no diabetes. Only if they have got the uncontrolled diabetes, they are at more risk. That is number one. Second, we have to keep in mind the drugs that the patient is receiving before starting the COVID treatment. That is, if the patients are already receiving drugs like SGLT2 inhibitors, we have to be very careful about the hydration part and ketoacidosis part. The third is if we are going to give favipiravir, then we have to stop reparinide if they are using it. That is one. Another part is that there is a frequent use in patients with COVID infection. So we have to be very careful. HCG, HCQ now, but if the patient is receiving HCQ, then also we have to be very careful about the hypoglycemic effect of hydroxychloroquine. And it's better to use insulin for the patients who are hospitalized, because that will bring a better control. And we also have to keep in mind the possibilities of high glucose leading to mucormycosis as an additional infection to the COVID infections. So on the whole, the diabetes as close to near glucose as possible. Better to keep it between 120 to 180 glucose at any given time. We need other comments, sir.
So may I add?
Please, Vijay sir.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
See, basically, COVID infection, whether a diabetic or non-diabetic, the incidence is the same. And like Dr. Desai just mentioned, if a diabetic is not controlled, then he has a greater chance of complications. But if he is adequately controlled, he is as good as a non-diabetic. So let's get this across. Diabetics should not be worried. They should be worried about a good glycemic control.
Panikkar sir, may I ask you one question?
Sure.
What is the steroid and the diabetes control? If suppose saturation is less than 92, home quarantine patient, and if he gives the oral steroid, and how much diabetes should be controlled with oral and
See, once you give steroid, the sugars are going to go up. And for controlling the rise with steroid, the best drug is either insulin or a glycoside. Glycoside has got the same pharmacodynamics like the pharmacokinetics like the steroid. When you give steroid, the blood glucose will rise after 4 or 5 hours. If you give glycoside, the same glycoside levels rise after 4 to 5 hours. So it is recommended that you can use glycoside to control steroid-induced hyperglycemia. The other drug is an insulin, NPH insulin. It also has the same pharmacodynamics, like pharmacokinetics, like the steroid. So if you have a once-a-day steroid, then you can use either a glycoside or a NPH insulin in the morning to control the rise of the sugar. And still, if you need add-on, then you can add a bolus insulin can be added, not an issue at all.
Okay, thank you.
May I ask to Panikkar sir,
I can add one thing. Yeah, before that I can add that I won't mind using, I will not be afraid of using steroid if it's required because it is easy to control sugar, but it's not easy to control the cytokine storm or the related inflammation. So if steroid is required just because of diabetes, we should not be afraid of not using steroid.
No, if you have to use, you have to use.
Yeah, use it.
Simple.
Panikkar sir, related to your talk,
Yes, sir.
Remo did very well in the beginning, but now the price war has started. Now, where do you see the role of Remo versus the other SGLT2?
Yeah, I'll tell you now, DAPA is available probably cheaper than Remo. So where is the question? I would use DAPA. As simple as that.
Right, sir.
DAPA has all the evidence that you want. DAPA HF, DAPA CKD, DAPA this. Remo doesn't have, though it may be as good. But this is ground reality. Okay, maybe 2 months back, Remo had a free field, cost-wise. And that is a very important aspect in our setting. But today things are different. Now Remo has come with a Remo vildagliptin combination. That would be good. That is cost effective. So things keep changing. These are all dynamics, pharma marketing dynamics. But we as clinicians should look at what is best for our patient.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. And Suresh, one question to Suresh.
Panikkar sir, one question.
Yes.
Like metoprolol succinate and metoprolol tartrate, the cost differences in both companies, the research molecule and the other salt. Do you think that dapagliflozin, one company is a higher rate and one company is a lower rate? Is some solid difference which may variable in efficacy, some different in some salt?
There are 4 different salts of DAPA, if I know right, which have been, all 4 have been approved by the US FDA. What is being marketed by the originator is a monohydrate compound. There is an anhydrous form of DAPA also, which is approved by US FDA, which many of the companies are marketing, which also have the same pharmacokinetic and dynamic like the monohydrate. Because there are studies to show that they are very similar. I think time will tell if there is any other problem. But if you ask me straight away, I don't see any difference. Because all the SGLT2 molecules have got glucose as their receptor binding site. It has to be there. And if that is there, the primary efficacy of the molecule will be the same. Only the time duration would be different.
Okay,
So
thank you.
it will not be an issue.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, Dr. Shri, you were asking some question to Dr.
Can I add
Nandi.
to Dr. Suresh, my good friend?
Hi,
Hi, Suresh. I was interested to know whether the female population was more in the GLP-1, the study which you showed. What is the significance in our routine practice if the females are more recruited in a given trial?
I think the area where there's not much study is where people get pregnant and post-pregnancy they were in GDM, and post-pregnancy they were all gained weight during pregnancy, and then lactation is done for after 1 to 1.5 years. That is all done dusted. So then they left with obese female with all the metabolic syndrome, and you need to address the HbA1c along with the other multifactorial. So those are the areas that I think personally be helpful to see the evidence what we are getting. But that is one of the areas where I think we need to focus Indian population. But in terms of studies, as a whole, women inclusion is very, very less. I found it much more interesting to see data come in with a lot of women population. So a fat, fertile 40 sort of women are prone for multiple problems like gallstones or a retching problem, diabetes, endometrial hyperplasia, and all that. So I think those are the areas that these kind of evidences will help to address. So those are the 2 points I want to say.
Thank you, Suresh.
So, Madhav Desai sir, let me ask you one question. Dr. Madhav sir.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, you mentioned on the slide mucormycosis that there's a pasuconazole is effective in a 200 milligram dose. What is your comment about isovoconazole?
I have not used it. So but they say that it is better, but I don't know. I have not used it. And again, this is only after once you control with amphotericin. As if when we have to give it for weeks together, we may not continue the parenteral therapy. So we need to switch over to oral antifungal agent.
Okay, direct way, isavuconazole and pasuconazole no.
It's a very aggressively invasive infection, and we need to be very controlled on a war footing.
So I will just add on. We have Dr. Nihal Thomas. In GL, when we were doing the physical symposia, we were used to run from one auditorium to another auditorium to conduct the scientific session or maybe the same thing. And what really demonstrated was Dr. Nihal Thomas, who was present on the both auditorium simultaneously with workshop and this presentation. Thank you, Dr. Nihal Thomas. And if you want to address something, please.
I have no specific comments. I think I covered a fair amount in terms of differential diagnosis of young onset diabetes. But if you have any questions for me, I'd be very happy to answer them.
That is all we had, and that is indeed pleasure that when I see this frame, there are 12 speakers who had been part of this journey and made this last session what a wonderful session of the ourselves, and where we see the maximum logging number at present that is mounted to almost 2800 plus in this session only. So thank you everyone, your extreme presence made this possible. If anyone wants to have some comments, otherwise we will proceed to the validity functions and the award ceremony.
I think thanks to the organizers, thanks to all of you. My co-panelist, Nihal is looking smart. Everybody is looking good in these Corona days. And Hina, you're looking very pretty.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
So thank you all for all panelists.
Yes.
On behalf of SwasthyaCon, we thank you all for your active participation and see you soon at the next SwasthyaCon, that is SwasthyaCon 2022, being held from 7th to 9th January.
And it should be physical, sir. We want to come there.
Yes.
Yes.
Srinivas,
No more
after a
virtual.
long time, Dr. Panikar, Dr. Thomas, after a long time we are meeting. Hope everything is fine with you and family.
Good show.
Yes.
Very good, sir. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Thanks so much.